Hello everybody, today I'll be answering the media evaluation question 3, what I have learned from my audience feedback. So the first thing I had to answer was exploring what I used in my short film to appeal to a target audience. So this could be anything from like certain colours and demographics I investigated, and it can look at things that I just need to put into my short film so I can get features and get people to actually view it, because my short film is targeted to people who are 15 to 23, and this is the demographic that I normally around, so it's easy to get feedback for, and now I can easily find out what they need and keep those features in my film. So one feature I used in my media product was relatable characters. So the actors I picked for my short film were of a very similar age to my target audience, and the main aim of this was to make it more appealing and to get more people to watch, because if people see more relatable characters, they're going to react maybe in the same way, they're going to have the same personalities of people who they might actually know. A feature I discovered from my audience feedback was that in my poster people would like it to be quite mysterious and not give away much of the story, and they also want it to be eye-catching. So because of this feedback, I needed to create a poster where the main character was sort of in central focus, and maybe just so you see who the main character is but not really giving away what the story is. So I had a poster where my main character is looking for a mirror, but in the mirror there isn't actually a reflection of my main character, so that gives off many messages and you can interpret that how you want to interpret it. And it creates a sense of mystery that my target audience asked for in my feedback. A final feature I used was my narrative features. I followed a similar narrative structure to common horror films, but I also had to add my own twist at the end. The twist was effective because I discovered in my feedback that the challenge of this convention in the end made it quite unique, unexpected and enjoyable. Overall, I believe this makes my short film successful, as I kept a lot of the common features that made horror films so successful and keeping to the normal story arc that they would expect, but also adding my own twist that makes it different to other horror films. Overall, I think I was quite successful in appealing to my target audience because I used a lot of the features they would expect and they come to expect, and the ones that they also wanted to see from the feedback I got and the research I conducted. And I also discovered from feedback after I actually created my short film that many people thought this was an effective way of presenting my film, and they quite liked how I'd put the twist at the end and keep the features of old horror films and use everything they would have expected. The second question I had to answer was how I actually constructed my short film to appeal to this target audience. So this is anything I did in post-production, so anything I added to the footage that I needed, or even the footage itself that I used to target my audience, so that's also features they expect, as I said before. But to target my audience, I first created surveys to find out what they needed. So this was useful in all elements, but I used SurveyMonkey to first find out what my specific demographic thought, so that's people in my area. But then there's also a good website called YouGov, and this gets the wider image on what my target audience would expect from a short film, as well as what other films are similar to my idea that I could maybe use as inspiration. So I found films such as The Shining and other horror films like that, Friday the 13th, and then I took some elements from that and found what was maybe successful about that film and less successful, and I was able to influence my own ideas and creation. Specifically, in one scene I used a dark forest which is set alongside a chase scene, and this is quite common in horror films and thriller films, and it was really expected. And it was successful because of this reason, because it's a key ingredient that people wanted. It's something they felt made the film look more scary, and it's an element that you couldn't really go without. So a third way which I constructed my short film was in my post-production. So in this I had to think of the themes and colours associated with my house style, and these are things such as the red colour which I use. So the final thing I had to add as well was the sound effects that came alongside that. And so these are sound effects, so maybe like a beat in the background and having, of course, the music overhead. And the music was very important, as that was something that sort of set the tone for your whole film, as when it's building up the tension. And this is something from my audience feedback I discovered I think I did quite well. So the thing I also had to do was identify the target audience for my product in the first place, so I knew what sort of demographic I need to be targeting. So for this, I used some of the websites like YouGov to find the demographics I needed. And when I found out the demographics were often people of my age around the area that I'm living in, I knew I could use websites like SurveyMonkey to collect more accurate primary data of my own, which I knew was relevant and valuable. So my product was effective because from my audience feedback after my short film, I discovered that responses were overall positive from the age group I was targeting, and they felt the use of conventions of what they expect, and they could also identify challenges that they didn't expect, which was something my demographics had brought up before, and I knew I could, being from that demographic myself, I could actually twist things the way I wanted them and make sure it's still effective while creating a broader and more exciting storyline. Using YouGov to research into groups who enjoyed films like Friday the 13th and Scream, which are similar films to my ones, I found out what I could do to target them, and since it was my own age group, it was significantly easier to get that feedback and find out what they needed from the short film to make it something they would enjoy watching. So the way I planned to appeal was mainly by conducting surveys on the age group, because it was so easy to just distribute it to my entire school and find out what they actually wanted from this short film. And then I would use questions like general questions like the age and their gender, and then I would find out other questions saying, rating what films they liked best and any films they thought were quite effective, which is where I got Friday the 13th and Scream from, because I could find out this is a film that popped up quite a lot that people enjoyed. And then using this research, it would mainly craft the entire works of my short film. On screen now, you should be seeing some of the research I did on YouGov, so you can see the demographics were, it doesn't show demographics that are younger, but because I knew that particularly on the right side, you can see that there are definitely a younger generation that would enjoy the film from my area. So I could see that I knew people sort of down the lower end of the spectrum would be someone to look into, and I could find that really easily over here. And I also knew that since it couldn't actually go under 18, I knew that the lower down the demographic spectrum it was, the easier it would be to sort of relate that to my age group and sort of make the film more effective and appealing to them. One effective one that you can see on this page is favourite music artists, because if I use that, I could see maybe if there's any songs I need to put in there, maybe something I could appeal to them, maybe saying that they knew a song in the film, even if it's just meant to be diegetic or non-diegetic, it didn't really matter. But there's also got the favourite movies, TV shows and celebrities, so I knew what type of people they liked, what type of actors they enjoyed, so I could find actors who fit the profile. I could see what favourite TV shows they liked, so you can see here you've got maybe a couple of comedies here, and these are just things that I could really easily use, look at, and then find out what the most impressive features were about them, and then I could use them in my short film. So that about does it for my third evaluation question. I hope you did enjoy, and that mainly just wraps up how everything is coming together and how my pre-production research really does help shape the way my short film working. So goodbye.